I think the Vancouver Canucks are about to make a pretty big mistake, which is on brand for the Canucks over the past, however long you can remember for the most part. And it really comes into what are the Canucks going to do about the salary cap going into next season. Here's the deal. Puckpedia updated their site today to roll over to the 2023-2024 NHL season. And folks, the Vancouver Canucks are the only team in the league that is already projected to be over the salary cap. You look at some of these teams, right? Some good hockey teams. And you might notice that every single team on this list, save for a couple, was a playoff team this year. And some of them are still alive. Except the Vancouver Canucks at the very top of this list with a projected cap hit of over $85 million and a projected cap space of negative $1.6 million to start the year. So that leads to some obvious discussions, right? If we pull up the Puckpedia page, what are the names that you notice right off the bat? You notice the wingers. You notice, JT Miller, who's been playing some wing, but for the most part has his NMC kicking in a couple of months and makes $8 million. You have Conor Garland, who makes $5 million a year for the next 3 seasons. And most Canucks fans would say after last year, didn't seem to be having very much of an impact. And same goes for Brock Besser, who has 2 years left on his deal and is making 6.65. And, there's hopes for a big offseason, but I feel like we've had those hopes for a while. And then there's obviously the defense. Oliver Ekman-Larsson making $7.26 million from the Canucks for the next 4 seasons, and Tyler Myers making $6 million this season. Now, Tyler Myers, of course, that deal expires at the end of this year, but could be a sheddable contract, hopefully, or potentially to get the Canucks under that cap number, because they need to be under that cap number by the start of next season. So where is the smoke taking us? The smoke is taking us for people like Frank Saravalli last night, saying the Canucks have been somewhat aggressively in talks with teams to at least understand the prices of what it would take to unload a contract. A lot of focus has been on Conor Garland, to the point the prices have been very high because teams want high picks in return, as in, yes, we will take Conor Garland from you, and yes, you will have to give us more for us to do so. Keep in mind, Conor Garland, the centerpiece of that Oliver Ekman-Larsson trade, where the Canucks basically shed 3 contracts and threw in a first-round pick for good measure, and in return got what seems to be sort of 2 duds of contracts in return, especially OEL, Garland. I'll get to that. Matt Larkin tweeting out this morning his article for Daily Faceoff, or I guess it was him and Saravalli. Basically, the Canucks are looking to shed salary, and the casualty will likely be Conor Garland. Frank Saravalli explained the situation today on Daily Faceoff Live. Here's the issue with that. Trading Conor Garland, not necessarily a bad move. However, adding pieces to trade Conor Garland, I think, would be a catastrophic mistake. JD Burke tweeted out, going to be very funny when Conor Garland outperforms every Canucks winger next season after they pay to get rid of him this summer. Now you might look at that and say, well, Conor Garland hasn't been good for the Vancouver Canucks, right? I mean, let's take a look at the stats. Stats show Elias Pettersson at the top, JT Miller, Quinn Hughes, Andrei Kuzmenko, and then Brock Besser. Now, obviously, Horvat's not on this list because he's no longer a member of the team. And then there is that Conor Garland spot right there, 6th on the team, basically 7th on the team for the year. 81 games, 17 goals, 29 assists, -5. Nothing special here, right? For a guy making $5 million, probably not a lot of positive value, especially you got guys like Kuzmenko coming in, putting up 74 points. Even Brock Besser, who had a down year, especially by the eye test, and was a -20. And really, it was the first half of his season that was really bad. Brock Besser still was on pace for about 60 points over an 82-game season. Conor Garland, 46 in 81 games. Here's the kicker. Conor Garland, in his career, again, you sort of see a decline, right? 2020, 2021, with Arizona. He had 39 points in 49 games. That's very good. But on that Arizona team, keep in mind, he was, a very important piece. Last season, 52 points in 77 games. That sounds pretty good. And then this last year, 46 and 81. So it's been basically points per game wise a steady decline. But here's where you need to sort of clue in as to why this might not be the best move. It's this column, this power play points column. Last year, 49 of his 52 points came at 5-on-5. If you have a player putting up 50 points at 5-on-5, that's a pretty good hockey player. And this last year, it wasn't the same. Sure, only 34 points at 5-on-5. Not as good. But let's take those 2 years and let's add them together. Let's go to Natural Stat Trick here. And let's look at player season totals. This is over last season and this season. So from 2021 through 2023. You can see that at the top here. This is looking solely at power play. Conor Garland, 13th out of every player who has played for the Canucks these past 2 years in time on ice per game. Now, sure, you can probably ignore Akito Hirose and Filip Hronek. But even guys like Beauvillier in his 33 games was getting 2.5 minutes of ice time on the power play. Conor Garland, 1.5 minutes time on ice per game on the power play. And if you just sort by time on ice, he's 6th. Sure, that looks like, oh, well, that's quite a bit. But you see the drop off, right? 600 minutes for Miller, Hughes, and Pettersson, in the low 400s for Besser and Horvat. And keep in mind, Horvat didn't play the last 30 games of this season with the Canucks. So this number would probably be closer to 500. And then you have Conor Garland all the way down at 250 minutes of ice time on the power play. So let's look at the last 2 seasons at every Vancouver Canucks player at points. But not just any points. This is points at 5-on-5. Elias Pettersson, number 1 at 85 points. JT Miller and Conor Garland tied with JT Miller at 78 points at 5-on-5 in these past 2 seasons. This is the same JT Miller that put up 99 points last year and another, 80 this year? What did he have? 82 points this year. But, 30 of his points were on the power play this year, and a bunch were on the power play last year. So, yeah, at 5-on-5, only 78 total points for JT Miller, and Conor Garland had that exact same amount, putting him well above Brock Besser, who, like I said, outscored him this year, but Brock Besser only has 55 total points in these past 2 years at 5-on-5. Conor Garland doesn't get power play 1 ice time, and when he's on the ice, he genuinely hasn't looked that great, especially this last year. But we are talking about a player who is one of the best producers at 5-on-5 for this hockey team. We go into the rates category, right? Sure, he was 3rd on the team, but how does that actually scale to based on time on ice, right? Let's look at points per 60. He's 5th. The only people ahead of him, Elias Pettersson. And this is points per 60 minutes of time on ice at 5-on-5. He outproduces JT Miller and Bo Horvat and Brock Besser and everyone else below him. The only people that have outperformed Conor Garland in points at 5-on-5 per 60 minutes are Elias Pettersson, obviously, Ilya Mikheyev in just 46 games, Andrei Kuzmenko, who has been obviously fantastic, and Aatu Ratu, who played 3 games and has only played 20 minutes of ice time. So that you can sort of ignore him from the list. I don't think you have a player there that's better than Elias Pettersson at 5-on-5. And while he is on the ice, if we just look at 5-on-5 on his on ice percentages, Conor Garland 5th on the Vancouver Canucks in expected goals for percentage while he is on the ice. All of this paints a picture of a player who, sure, maybe makes a little bit too much money at $4.95 million. However, he is a player that had the worst season of his career last year. The Canucks were bad, keep in mind. The year prior, he was very decent at 5-on-5, especially driving, and like I said, basically all of his points at 5-on-5, right? 52 points, only 3 on the power play. So 49 points at 5-on-5 in 77 games last year. That's a player who is worth a $5 million contract, and that's basically what he's paying, and he is cost controlled for the next 3 seasons. I think if that's your cap casualty, I think you are I don't think you're putting enough stock into what he does at 5-on-5 for the team, and you are letting Brock Besser's basically power play contributions hinder that. If you can trade Conor Garland for an asset, which I don't think you can because winger values are extremely low, then maybe that's fine. But I think giving up assets to get rid of a cost-controlled winger that you are going to have to replace, keep in mind, because Canucks only have 12 forwards under contract for next year, and 6 defensemen under contract for next year, and 1 goaltender, essentially. Unless, Spencer Martin is who you're wanting to bring in as a backup, but I think that's probably not the best move. Really, we're talking about a player that is worth the money he is paid, and the Canucks just they can't afford to give up more capital to let go of players that are actually doing their job. And I genuinely didn't think Conor Garland was that good this year, but the numbers show that he was not as bad as everyone thought. So that's my story. That's my argument to keep Conor Garland in Vancouver. I think it would just be a big black mark because that's what's going to happen, right? They're going to trade, if they trade Garland and let's say a pretty decent draft pick to a team like Chicago, let's say, right, where they want maybe a couple wingers to play with Connor Bedard, and maybe they can pick up a couple assets as well. You're going to see Conor Garland put up numbers because he's going to be playing power play 1 ice time, which he has not done in Vancouver. You are going to see, I would venture to say, probably a 60-65 point season from him, and the Canucks are going to look bad once again. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked this video, hit like. If you disagree with me, tell me why in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed for more Canucks and NHL talk. And I'll see you next time.